Last year, the Pixel 2 really impressed me with its dynamic range, the precision of its portrait mode, and its overall quality. It had a solid lead over the iPhone, and every other phone for that matter, but this year Apple really leapt forward, and I think Google's facing some stiff competition. There's a lot of talk about the Google Pixel 3 right now, and for good reason. It's got a great camera. I'm still an iOS user, so I'm not really going to review this as a full phone. I know I'm not going to be switching, but I do love nice cameras, so let's take this for a test bed. Now, I don't want this to really be a direct comparison of the two phones, but since the iPhone XS is what I use every day, it's my best point of reference. I only had the Google for one day, so this isn't really a serious review, just a photographer's impressions taking photos for a day. The biggest difference I'm noticing is that, as usual, Apple is going for a slightly more natural look, and the best thing about that is it's keeping a lot more detail in the blacks. Google is adding that contrast right away, so you can't really recover it quite as much. It's similar to what happened last year, but the iPhone's been pushing their dynamic range so far that, to me, I prefer the look of this iPhone, especially once it's been edited. When I took my first few test photos, I actually thought the Google was pumping the vibrance way over the top, but then I remembered to switch my screen from adaptive to natural, and that helped a lot. But even then, iPhone photos would need their saturation turned way up to match what the Pixel's doing. But keep in mind that saturation levels are an aesthetic choice, it's not a measure of image quality. I'm just telling you so that you know what to expect. I did find a few examples where the iPhone was pulling a bit more dynamic range in the highlights, but I didn't do a ton of tests in this, so take it with a grain of salt. I even forgot to test in HDR Plus mode, which would have given me even more dynamic range. So portrait mode is still pretty fantastic. The detail it has in isolating the subject is often more accurate than the iPhone, although it did struggle a little bit with our leaf example here. You can still tell that there's only really 2 layers of depth information. It would probably need a second lens for more. The bokeh is looking really nice. We do still have those occasional weird cutout mistakes, but overall, I still kind of love the Pixel portrait mode. Selfie portrait mode is still looking sharp, and it's still more consistently accurate than the iPhone. I already know that my favorite feature about this phone is the wide-angle selfie camera. I would love for this to be on my iPhone, and I know that I'm gonna miss it anytime I'm not using the Pixel 3. Seriously, if you take a lot of selfies, this might be the phone for you. That wide angle is not only really cool, but it's surprisingly practical. And the regular selfies look great, just like they did on the Pixel 2. All around, very solid selfie performance. Every time I use an Android phone, I instantly get used to the double tap to unlock, and then I start doing it on my iPhone. I mean, I don't know if it's better, I accidentally do it sometimes, but I do use it a lot. The camera interface feels a lot better this year. It's easier to flip between camera modes and feels much more familiar for an iPhone user. Now, if you'll give me a second, I want to tell you a bit about Skillshare, who has sponsored this video. It's an online learning community with thousands of classes to learn about filmmaking, get tips on productivity, or of course, learn about mobile photography. A class you could start with would be this one by Brenton Clark Little. He walks you through some of the techniques for shooting and editing beautiful photos on your phone. Or the class I'm doing right now is all about advanced Photoshop retouching. There's tons of options in there. Usually membership starts at around $10 a month, but for the first 250 people to sign up with the link in the description below, you'll get 2 months of Skillshare for free. Just think of how many classes you could get through in 2 months. So scroll down, find that link, and click it right now. The sun is going down, so that's the end of our daylight tests. Overall, it did great. Often I found the photos going darker than I would have chosen, or also darker than the iPhone was in the same situation. It's not really a problem, like you can adjust for it. It was just a strange choice. Okay, but now let's push this camera to the limit. Let's do some low light tests. I did some basic low light tests and it performed well, but I'm sorry to say that I didn't have access to the magical new night sight mode during my tests. But all the examples I've seen online are amazing, and I'm sure that every other phone manufacturer is going to be scrambling to implement similar features next year. One weird thing I did notice is that the selfie camera would occasionally forget to remove the noise from an image. Sometimes it feels a little slow when I'm waiting for the phone to catch up processing photos after I shoot them, since I've been getting used to it happening all in real time on my iPhone, but the photos do come out great once they're done. In the end, the Pixel 3 is a fantastic camera. I loved shooting with it. I think if you're going to make a choice about your phones based on camera, it's still all about operating system. I prefer iOS, so I'm definitely sticking with an iPhone. But the one place that I think Google's doing the best job of is their selfies. I love that wide-angle lens. I want to see that on every phone. For more, listen to the podcast, go to stallmanpodcast.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video.